Reveal a natural, radiant glow with Tizo Tinted Moisturizing Serum. With skin-loving ingredients like hyaluronic acid, glycerin, and ceramides, this serum delivers long-lasting hydration, leaving skin feeling nourished and refreshed. 5 luminous shades provide a radiant hint of buildable color with a glowing, sheer finish that enhances your tone and texture. Gentle, all-mineral SPF 30 and antioxidants protect against UV and environmental damage. Experience skincare that hydrates, protects, and perfects with Tizo's Tinted Moisturizing Serum. Visit tizoskin.com for details. Are you interested in providing results-driven treatment services? Join a team of like-minded individuals who share your passion and support your success. With more than 1,000 franchised locations in 49 states, Massage Envy is not only the nation's #1 provider of massage services collectively across its franchise network, but also a national leader in skincare. Start or grow your career at a Massage Envy franchised location. Visit massageenvy.com/SDcareers for full details.
Hello and welcome to ASCP Esty Talk. I'm Ella Cressman, licensed esthetician, educator, and content contributor for Associated Skincare Professionals.
I am Maggie Staszcuk, licensed esthetician and ASCP's program director.
How are you today?
I am good, Ella. How are you?
I am good. I'm very good, and I feel very satiated.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I had a great breakfast. You know what they say, breakfast is the best way to start the morning.
Yes.
Speaking of food, you have to be living under a rock to have not heard of GLP-1s, right?
Yeah.
We hear a lot about them on different podcasts, different news segments and such. We hear that there is these agencies that provide memberships to get better access. We hear a lot about them. What we don't hear a lot about is how these medicines affect the skin. So what do you think about talking about that today?
Yeah, I'm curious, and you bring up a really good point, something I have not even contemplated. Aside from the body, what is the impact on the skin?
Absolutely. Now, I have to tell you, I'm speaking from firsthand experience as a practitioner who has worked on many who have gone through or are currently using a GLP-1. And I've seen some similarities, and then I have also used them. I've used 2 different kinds, but what I want to do today is because a lot of times we're associating with one particular medication, I'd like to define a little bit more. So let's talk about the science of slim. What are GLP-1s? We've heard the brand names Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro, but they're not all the same. What they do in the body is they mimic this natural peptide hormone that encourages 2 things. One is a satiation, a feeling of fullness, but also a slowing down of the digestive tract. So think of how you feel when you're really, really full. You're not hungry. You're not craving anything. So with that, we get appetite suppression. The slow digestion means there's different nutrient diffusion. And then this all helps to regulate insulin production, which is how this was discovered in the first place. So this is really off-label use of a medication. That saw a shift from diabetes treatment into widespread use for weight loss. It kind of took off, and there you go. The biggest difference is semaglutide versus tirzepatide. And semaglutide is GLP-1, tirzepatide is GLP-1 plus something else, and now they're working on a third version is semaglutide plus something else, each time refining this medication a little bit more. And that refinement changes some of the side effects and the efficacies. In fact, recently they're just talking about releasing a daily pill versus these weekly shots, which is going to be really interesting.
Really interesting. And what's hitting me is what you're saying about, quote unquote, how they work with this appetite suppression. And what hit me is how it is slowing your digestion. Because people, in my opinion, and in a previous life when I worked for a doctor, these clients that we worked with who had slowed digestion, not because of any medication they were on, but just because of their digestive issues, this presented on the skin, and not in a good way. if it's not coming out the back end, it's showing up on the skin.
Absolutely. You bring up a really, really good point because there's other elements to that. If you have a good provider, they're going to tell you what you should eat because you are eating calorically a lot less in theory, and you don't have the same bountiful meal options. So you're having protein is more encouraged. Now, it could be my social media algorithms, but at the same time, we see a lot of protein-rich fixes, like protein pizza crust, for example, where you're making it out of ground chicken, or the rising popularity of cottage cheese and the parallel with GLP-1s. I think it's very interesting. There's a lot of things that have changed with the introduction of this new technology. And we talked about it a little bit before, but really body goals have been rebranded. So we have this cultural shift from curvy ideals to the reemergence of this slim aesthetic. So think, now this might be kind of, throwing it back, but think Kim Kardashian, which everyone's familiar with, versus Kate Moss, which people might not be familiar with. So this curvy hourglass body trend of the 2010s and use of waist trainers to have this voluptuous look are not the same. We're looking now at this sharp pivot back to the lean, slim silhouette, and it's happening really fast. And I've expressed to you that it's really uncomfortable for me because I thought, finally, I'm in style. And really that's, in my opinion, a healthy representation of the female form. So when I see celebrities that are using it, that I don't think need to be using it, first of all, it's just changing the cultural shift, but there's some skin changes also. Let's just talk about a few celebrities that have used it that might not have needed to. First and foremost, Dolores Catania. You don't know who she is. I know you wouldn't try.
I don't know half the people on this list. I'm just going to say.
Okay, well, let me break it down.
Okay.
Dolores Catania is from the Real Housewives of New Jersey, but she also recently won The Traitors. I believe it's The Traitors. It's like a cool game show. Gorgeous. She's always been beautiful. She's always worked out like I know her, right? I feel like I do because I've seen her since the birth of this show. She started taking it. Her physique has definitely changed. Makes me sad. She looks beautiful. She's absolutely gorgeous. But I had always respected her for her femininity and the fact that she worked out and it was really important to her. And now to see her so much slimmer, she still looks beautiful, but I digress. And then Erica Jane is another one. I'll fill you in on that. Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, another gorgeous woman, absolutely beautiful. She also is I want to say music artist, but she appears to be on it and she's really slim compared to gorgeous. Didn't need it in my opinion, but I guess she did. Then we have others. Like, do you know who Fat Joe is? He's a rapper. He was heavier and he looks super trim now. I think he might have needed it. Kathy Bates. You know Kathy Bates.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know Kathy Bates.
She's using it. Alabama Barker. She's another music person.
No, don't know it.
Rumored that Kelly Clarkson, Kelly Clarkson, that she's using it and successfully. How about Rebel Wilson?
Yeah.
And then we have Heather Gay from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And there's kind of, I don't know, she's made this comment how her personality has changed.
Interesting.
Because she used to be, in her words, like the fat, funny friend.
Right.
And now she's got a slimmer physique and she feels different. And then, of course, Tracy Morgan. But here's what's happening is the thin ideal becomes more medicalized and the new beauty expectation rise. So the GLP-1s have played a major role in this shift because it's more accessible. It sounds like it's not going to be as much work. A lot of people have claimed, oh, that's just the easy way out. You're just taking a shot or what will become taking a pill. It's not that simple. But the more people share these transformations, the new body ideal is gaining traction. And this really sparked inspiration, but also anxiety, pressure, and this sense of comparison in me. The thin ideal is back in the conversation, more medical than ever. What I really want to talk about today is none of that is our business. But it's important to understand is that we're going to encounter this.
First, I want to say something that stuck out for me is you're mentioning how there's been this cultural shift and the curvy hourglass figure became the standard. And now we're going back to what I view as like the 90s figure or trend. And I feel like, and I'm using 90s loosely, only because 90s, quote unquote, is the trend in almost every industry. Makeup and fashion and how you wear your hair or your eyebrows. And I think it's so interesting that it is permeating every facet of our lives, including GLP-1s and what your body type is.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. And we can look back even over the last 125 years and see that the body ideal has shifted. Like, let's talk about early 20th century. The hourglass was there. It was just under a skirt, but they had bustles. So they had faux butts, right? They had, before the surgeries, this was what they would do. And then in the 1920s, the slim figure was in, the flapper figurine. And then in the 1950s, it was voluptuous, these pinups. The 1960s and then 70s, we started to see more of that thin physique, 70s, 80s, 90s. And then 2000s, it started shifting again. So maybe it's just part of the wave that we're riding. But what we know now more than what we knew in 1920 is the science of how it affects the skin.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important. No matter your shape and size, I will always accept you, all forms, because I think that's important. As skincare practitioners, we need to understand that the use of these medicines has a histological effect, which is key. So when we're in consultation, we need to understand some of the things that are going on. First of all, the psychology. There is an amazing connection between emotions and the skin, as we know. When we're looking at rapid weight loss, this can really be an empowering experience. I went through it before, not rapid necessarily, but earned weight loss. And I felt so good about life and I was way more confident. When you're happy, your skin looks good often. So that's awesome. But it also leaves behind a telltale sign of loose skin, crepey skin, sagging skin around the arms, abdomen, neck, even the face, especially this under chin area. These are common and completely normal results of losing fat quickly. But here are some additional skin-related side effects of the GLP-1 medications, right? Not just the shrinking, which we've talked about before, but let's talk about something else. Dehydration and dull skin. So GLP-1 medicines can cause nausea, and that can reduce your fluid intake. Not to mention, because it slows everything down and you want to keep it moving, it's recommended to multiply your use by 150%. So if you normally drink 100 ounces, I'm just using that for the sake of ease, then you should drink 150 ounces. If you don't, it's not an easy feat. It's barely attainable to drink the daily recommended amount, right? But that can lead to dehydrated skin. This can make the skin appear tired, flaky, or more textured, and it can make fine lines and dullness more obvious.
Going back to some of these celebrity influencers and actors and actresses that you've listed, for me anyway, when I think back and look at their photos from when they were one physique to when they lost all the weight, you can see that in their skin.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same person. And for me, they almost look tired in their face, And I'm sure a lot of it is that dehydration.
The dehydration for sure. And then gravity.
Yeah.
And gravity. And that's why the trend of facial surgeries is surpassing like other augmentations of the body, which is interesting too. You kind of touched on this earlier, but nutrient deficiencies is right up there. It's important to understand what people eat shows up on the skin, like you were talking about, and then how it processes, we'll call that, out the back end, like you said, is really important. So the reduced appetite means lower intake of essential nutrients. We're talking about A, C, E, zinc, and protein, which is why they tell you to eat more protein. If you're only hungry if you only have so much room in your appetite for something, you're going to put in what is the building blocks for cell rebirth or cell growth, right? So that leaves a deficiency in these other areas. So how does that show up on the skin? It can lead to impaired collagen production. So not only do you have this shrinking balloon from, I guess a balloon might be the wrong word, but it's a good visual. But then the collagen production is slowed because it doesn't have the fuel that it needs in the form of these essential elements, but also slow wound healing and increased skin sensitivity. So what does that affect? Microneedling, chemical peels, even potentially dermaplaning. And you might notice as a skincare practitioner, a slower recovery from those types of treatments. What do you think about that?
100%, that makes sense. I mean, if you're not taking in the nutrients that you need to then recover from these procedures that you're having, bottom line is you shouldn't be having those procedures. And as estheticians, we need to start by putting on topically all of these antioxidants to help support the barrier of the skin before we then go in and do procedures like the microneedling or the microdermabrasion and the dermaplaning.
And so that lends to the importance, or like really emphasizes the importance of this relationship between home care that they need to be on and these in-clinic treatments, because it is the symbiosis, is the working together of both of those things that's going to have the results. You don't want to mess somebody up. So very important, very, very important. So as you're doing your consultation, the main point that you should be focusing on or considering, oh, you're on GLP-1s, that's great. And then what are they using at home to supplement the deficiencies? Very, very important. How about acne and breakouts? So when you lose weight, there is a hormonal shift because adipose tissue actually carries estrogen. So as you're losing the adipose, all of the other hormones have to adjust. Also, it could be dopamine shift as you're feeling happier, whatever. But these hormone shifts can spark a breakout. Maybe it's a stress-related breakout from feeling sick to your stomach, a lot of different opportunities. And that adjustment period as your body changes to these caloric restriction, plus the poor nutrition, dehydration, can contribute to inflammatory skin conditions like acne or rosacea. So being aware of that and countering. Because of the dry dehydrated, these could be dry acne breakouts. So not just salicylic, not just a benzoyl peroxide, but really considering the type of hydration that they have. My favorite for that is something with hyaluronic acid in it. Like a hyaluronic acid period for somebody who's in GLP-1 will help so much. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense to me for sure. I think for any esthetician, we always say, do your consultation, do your skin analysis, of course, taking into consideration that your client is on a GLP-1, but really looking at what's happening on the skin in that moment in front of you, assessing, is this a dry acne situation, and knowing your ingredients and what's going to help topically to support that condition.
Absolutely. And so then something else, we kind of touched on the delayed wound healing and the skin sensitivity, but because of the lower nutrient reserves in the body and the changes to metabolic function, this can change. So something to keep in mind, especially if you're working on titrating a treatment. Let's say you're wanting to level step up chemical peels, for example, in a series, right? So you're starting with maybe a larger AHA or an enzyme and you're graduating up. Sometimes you don't need to. So really take each appointment as an opportunity to check in and see, evaluate, and have that analysis at each appointment is going to be key, just to see what's going on. So let's talk really quickly about some other things, other opportunities that might be great. The radiofrequency therapy. Have you ever tried that?
Yes, and I love it.
Me too. Microneedling is fantastic for stimulating collagen. Ultrasound-based treatments are great if you have that in your office. These are things like Ultherapy, and what those do is they work to lift up and firm the deeper tissue layers, which sparks tightening of the outer layers. Another thing that's really important is lymphatic drainage and body sculpting, even LED therapies. And I would encourage the LED therapies to be independent of others. I don't like to mix LED with chemical peels or microneedling. How about you?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think LED is something that potentially your client could even be using at home.
Absolutely. So that's a great idea to retail or to find an affiliate program with a company that you can encourage. Here's the other thing is, especially with these GLP-1s, the body skincare becomes essential. So think about body exfoliation. Why body exfoliation?
Increases your lymphatic drainage.
Oh, absolutely. And also that is cell turnover. How about body lotion? Things that's ceramide rich and barrier supportive properties. This helps to prevent dryness and irritation. And then I don't know what your body care routine is right now, but have you seen the use of retinols for all over care?
I have not seen that. I'm sure it exists, but I actually just take my facial retinol and will apply it topically on the body if I need it.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. You're so smart.
I know.
I buy a separate one for my body.
Now that's smart.
We're so smart.
We are smart.
Yeah, now they have a lot of body options that have retinol in it, which I love too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I like the idea of making it like almost like a body treatment. And peptides are really important too. These help to address things like stretch marks and the loss of firmness. So really what we're focusing on here with this whole conversation is where aesthetics meet wellness. And as these body transformations become more common, the skincare industry needs to sit up and take notice and meet the moment. This isn't really about just chasing a trend because as we talked about, the trends shift. It's about supporting clients with empathy, education, and effective treatments. So we really have a chance to redefine what post-weight loss care looks like. So it's shifting from just fixing loose skin that we've seen in these like 360 surgeries and so on, to celebrating the progress because not everyone's on it, but now emotionally somebody's seeing the ideals change, which is going to be important. So improving skin health is always in fashion. I think that's one key point in helping clients reconnect with their bodies. Let's do that through customized treatment plans, through client education, even collaboration with wellness pros like nutritionists, trainers, and doctors could be really key to providing holistic care because we're entering this new era where aesthetics and wellness are partners and not competitors. What do you think?
I love the point that we should be partnering with people like the nutritionists, the trainers, the doctors, because that is not what we do. But if we can support our clients in that way and refer them out, then we have created an amazing network where our clients continue to come back to us and we have built trust.
I agree. We stay in our lane. That's the effect of these on the skin. And then we create a team for our clients, right? Now, listeners, we really want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on GLP-1s and how they influence the skin? Reach out via Instagram, Facebook, or send us an email at getconnected@ascpskincare.com. We want to know all the details. In the meantime, thank you for listening to ASCP Esty Talk. For more information on this episode or for ways to connect with Maggie or myself, or to learn more about ASCP, check out the show notes. And stay tuned for the next episode of ASCP Esty Talk.
This podcast is sponsored by Lamprobe. Lamprobe is a popular aesthetic tool that enables skincare practitioners to rapidly treat a wide variety of common minor skin irregularities, or MSI. Red MSI treated by Lamprobe include dilated capillaries and cherry angiomas, yellow MSI, cholesterol deposits and sebaceous hyperplasia, and brown MSI treated include skin tags and more. Lamprobe MSI treatments are non-invasive and deliver immediate results. Lamprobe can empower your skin practice with these new and highly in-demand services. For more information, visit lamprobe.com. That's LAMPROBE.com. And follow Lamprobe on social media @Lamprobe.